the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is how do elite teams consistently turn the extraordinary into the ordinary, or the other way around? Well, our guest for today is the perfect guest to answer that question. We're going to dive deep into this today. Ladies and gentlemen, Atlas Aultman is a number one international best-selling author in 13 categories, a TEDx speaker with thousands of likes, and speaks to his studies where he has been selected to lead thousands of people in 31 countries in no-fail missions for over 3 decades of military work, including the most elite teams on the planet in the White House, special operations, and innovation. Selected to be on teams of the top 1% in the U.S. military, his highly decorated former career puts him in positions where he can share his best practices and lessons learned for others to expedite their leadership growth, team building skills, and elevate their mindset to that of an elite team member who delivers more wins. And today he's going to share all that insight experience. I'm quite excited for this show. Atlas, thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
Hey, Joshua. I am fantastic. Thank you for that interview. It was almost like you read it.
Almost like I almost did. I could not
Man,
have possibly memorized all that. I would love to get myself a teleprompter someday. I could look you straight
yeah,
while I'm reading that. But I love it. I love the introduction. 33
hey,
decades of military work, Atlas.
yeah, yeah, it's
What a
funny.
life. Talk to
Yeah,
us a
it's a
little bit
calling.
about that. Hmm.
It's a calling, man. Yeah, like my mom when she was raising me, unlike a lot of moms, she's like, hey, you're gonna go to war, you're gonna do the family business, you're gonna be in the army, which I didn't join the army. I joined the Air Force, really made her mad.
Hmm.
Really made her mad. But yeah, it's one of those things where you fall into work, as some people call it, but you feel like it's just an everyday adventure that continues in some place that you should be. And
Hmm.
that was my life for like 30
Hmm.
years after I signed the paperwork. And before that, I was a military brat. So I've really just recently stepped away from being in a military environment. And, now you can see I
Wow.
bring the military environment to me. It's all behind me. It makes me feel comfortable.
Outside of your life as well. I mean, you can never. They say like you could take the you could step out of the military life. You could never take the military out of the soldier, so to speak. Even if he is a civilian, Atlas, your leadership journey has begun at a really young age. You've had strong military influence in your family. Can you share some key moments in your childhood that shaped your early life and shaped your approach to leadership? And did you always know that it was a calling? Did you never rejected that calling? Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, good question, Joshua. Yeah, no, I always wanted to be in the military.
Wow.
It's just like professional athletes, they study their sport or whatever
Hmm.
they're trying to do. I
Hmm.
recently heard a study where someone was raising their kids in the influence of chess players, and they put pictures of chess players on the wall.
Wow.
That's all they talked about was chess, and they just went into this chess game
Mm.
environment. And those three daughters that were raised by this couple became world champions by the
Wow.
ages of like 8, 12, and 14.
Wow.
And I had a very similar upbringing, except for all the pictures on my wall were people in uniform. All the people in my environment were people who were leading soldiers, and
Hmm.
they were in the military. And so
Hmm.
my whole childhood was shaped with, I know what I want to do. I know I'm going to do the best that I can at it. Let me learn the ins and outs as a kid so that whenever I step foot into a boot, I
Hmm.
know that I can start to move that boot into a
Wow.
direction that actually matters. instead of
Hmm.
sitting around like a lot of people do nowadays,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So
unfortunately.
I am very blessed and fortunate to have had all the influences that were on the wall come to life like real
Wow.
action heroes. And, people play soldier, they do airsoft, they do, tactical maneuvers. And this is something that people
Video
like
games.
and video games, yeah, and movies and books. It's just all over the place. It's one of those desirable jobs.
Hmm.
And I always saw it as such. So whenever I got to do it, it was a true
Wow.
privilege. Now I have a story that'll blow your listeners'
Uh,
mind.
we love stories
And
on this one, Atlas. Let's why
and
not? Let's go.
so a lot of people say, thank you for your service. People
Mm.
say that it's conditioned response to say, oh, you're in the military. Oh, thank you for your service.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll touch that later.
Hmm.
But why they say that is because it's one of those jobs that one would think is a very desirable position
Right.
in society.
Hmm.
You need the defensive posture to make sure that you can do life as we know it.
Yes.
Where it becomes really crazy, and I've never shared this story before, is when I was working at the White House
Hmm.
and I was not in uniform. People would see me in a suit and they would assume that I was Secret Service or White House staff. They wouldn't know that I was a military member
Okay.
just serving the President of the United States.
Okay. Okay.
One of these events, I was standing next to a Secret Service agent,
Uh huh.
and someone was like, "Oh, this is Major Aultman," and they're like, "Major? That's a weird name." I'm like, "Well, it's my rank in the military," and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry you had to be in the military," and I'm
Whoa.
like, "You're sorry I had to be in the military?" And they're like,
Whoa.
"Yeah, that sucks that you had to go in the military. I'm sure that you'll get out soon. I'm really sorry for you." And I really took that as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, when you hear the whole world saying, "Hey, thank you for your service," and they're all conditioned to do this
Right.
from
Right.
another aspect of maybe more elite society members, they
Right.
saw that as a downplay to the life, like that I was mandated to do something, like it was that or jail. This isn't the early 30s and 40s when we were
Hmm.
trying to push people out into
Hmm.
war environments. This is like a volunteer force that we were in. So
Of course.
I was really taken aback by that, and
Hmm.
that mindset that it would even exist. It really, really, really surprised me, Joshua. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
really surprised me. So yeah, thanks for letting me share that. But
But so,
um,
what do you think the motivation was behind that? Because I kind of see both sides. You mentioned that it's conditioned response to thank you for your service. So of course, it feels
yeah,
good to be thanked, right? It feels good, like yeah, I worked hard for this, and I protected people, and I fought for
yeah,
this country. And to be told the opposite all of a sudden out of the blue, it just feels, of course, it feels off. What do you feel, first off, where do you feel that motivation came from where they said you were sorry to be in the military? But at the same time, do you also feel like the conditioned response of thanking you is genuine and something that you've always come to?
yeah. So whenever I hear "thank you for your service," I kind of feel like, hey, this is it was my job.
Right,
I volunteered to do it. I'm blessed and fortunate to get
right.
to lead thousands of people and be responsible for millions, often billions
Mhm.
of dollars in assets and budget that the
Mhm.
taxpayers have given to me to make sure that they're safe, that
Yes.
they're secure,
Yeah.
that I'm doing the right thing with integrity, service, and excellence,
Hmm.
that I get to be there.
Hmm.
That's an
Of course.
opportunity for me,
Hmm.
not something that I should be thanked for.
Hmm.
But I appreciate the support. So the whole conversation behind this is people say that I believe because the Vietnam era, whenever these veterans were coming back from war,
Hmm.
that was brought into people's households for the first time ever on TV, they saw the horrors of war, and
Hmm.
war sucks. There's not music or theme
Hmm.
background noises that are going on when you're getting shot at, when you're getting a rocket thrown your way, or
Hmm.
whenever there's explosions going on. It's not fun. It's one of those things that Dave Goggins would say makes you question, why the hell am I here? It's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vietnam type of response turned into,
Mm-hmm.
hey, thank you for your service, from, I believe, the Vietnam veterans who are trying to make sure that the public doesn't do to us what they did to them. And get the response. I understand it. But in the same sense, it's a sacrifice that we all
Right.
signed up for. So
Right.
that that sacrifice is where I stand on now. Instead of telling somebody, if you really want to talk to a veteran and say, hey, thank you for your service,
Mm-hmm.
say thank you for your sacrifices. And that will actually hit them differently, and they'll be like, oh, this guy gets it, or if it's a girl, this girl gets it.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, we are. This has happened a couple times.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, I love it. But recording it actually continued. So
Yep.
um,
Did you
you're
get
not doing
disconnected
this
there?
live.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
advantage of not doing it live, I guess. Do you get disconnected often?
No.
Hmm, that's interesting.
So I've done 46 shows and I've been disconnected twice.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Is this the
but
second time?
yeah, this is the second time.
Oh man.
Um, this is it's early morning here and it's tsunami season,
Whoa.
or not tsunami. We're getting storms.
Hurricane.
So,
Rainstorms.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, we get these crazy what they call in the desert haboobs. So we get this
Right.
sandstorm that'll come through and it'll knock out utilities. Sometimes it
Oh
knocks out
man.
internet,
Okay.
but
Okay. Well,
not during.
not
All
very
right,
often.
so no. All right,
Um,
so where do you
we
want to go?
Yeah,
You're
I
talking
think
about
just to kind of refresh or rehash that portion, the last part where you started really cutting off with when you said David Goggins, just like what David Goggins said,
okay,
and
okay,
then we could perhaps continue on from there.
yeah.
All right, you
I'll
want the
just restart
clapperboard?
though. No, I'll restart. You can do the clapperboard for you. That way you know where to edit. Um, but I'll drop back into
Yeah, you
where
were
I was.
talking
Okay,
about
so service. So
yeah, talking
service
about
before
service.
self is a conditioned response.
Hmm.
It's interesting because I get to do that,
Yeah.
and everyone comes to me and says thank you for your service
Hmm.
with a conditioned response, and I believe it came from Vietnam. And
Hmm.
in Vietnam, they used to get spit on, and people used to watch these horrors of war come into their living room for the first time, and they would see
Hmm.
this, and that's not something people should be able to see.
Hmm.
So whenever they have this war type environment brought out, they look at these people that are in war, they see some of the things that had to happen,
Hmm.
and they're not fun. No one's singing songs whenever they're getting their life put in danger.
Right.
So I believe the Vietnam veterans who had to go through that war, they look at life a lot differently, and then they brought that into the society that now they're in hierarchical, a higher status now than they
Yeah.
were when they were kids, and they're
Yeah.
trying to make sure that the military mindset is protected and that people want to go in. And so
Hmm.
where that goes is the motivation serves itself
Right.
to be a part of the service. But
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to thank somebody for their service
Mm-hmm.
nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and you really want it to hit hard, you have to tell them thank you for your sacrifices, because
Wow.
the military lifestyle itself
Yeah.
is nomadic. You don't get to keep your friends. You
Mm-hmm.
don't do the same 6 months like a lot of people do,
Yeah.
where they have, certain things in their life they can guarantee are going to happen at certain seasons of their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
You give up all of that. You give up having these long term friends. You give up this
Mm-hmm.
normalcy
Mm-hmm.
that people enjoy in life. And
Right.
that sacrifice is really, it's past a conditioned response
Absolutely.
of thank you for your service. It's more on the lines of thank you for your sacrifices. And it's a hard life to
Absolutely.
live for a lot of people.
I mean, I like you said, you got to live it. Not just like on behind the screens, behind video games, and behind
Yeah.
war games and all that. You truly got to live it. But also, what people don't understand the most is the sacrifices that came in it, that came with it. So I would understand why you take offense when someone says like, "I'm sorry, you were in the military." I mean,
Yeah.
what a thing to say to anybody in the
Yeah.
military, right? The audacity, but Atlas, 3 decades, 30 years in the military, and you transition into civilian leadership or civilian life. You've
Yeah.
went from leading elite teams in the military to now applying those lessons in the civilian world. Before we start talking about what you do with Leaders Kit, talk to us about that civilian transition. How difficult was it, or how easy was it? Because 3 years, 3 decades,
Yeah.
I can't imagine how what were the things that you had to do to transition.
Yeah, that's an interesting pool, and no one's ever asked me that, Joshua.
Wow.
So let me give you the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. A lot of people know Arnold Schwarzenegger as a bodybuilder. They
Yep.
don't know him as a real estate investor.
Mm,
So there's a lot of people who will point to him and be like, he's a fantastic movie star. He started in these big roles. But what
mhm.
you're not seeing is the jump that he took when he got here
Right.
into full on real estate. He owned apartments,
Wow.
he owned a commercial real estate, and he
Hmm.
became a multimillionaire before he started his journey into Hollywood, which gave him the opportunity to not be like a side guy. He was a
Mm,
main character, only a main character. So he was always going after that main character. I did something very similar, but it took me a lot longer. And
wow.
where he has real estate passion that no one really talks about. They always talk about movies and bodybuilding. I had a passion for the military, and now I've taken that and that basis, and now I have enough money to do what I want to do,
Hmm.
and that's help other people, through this whole platform that I'm building. But
Hmm.
I don't need to take these side jobs. I don't need to step on a
Hmm.
smaller stage. I like to do podcasting because it lives forever.
Hmm.
And this is always going to be something that people will be able to pull out throughout history and say, what did Joshua and Atlas talk about? And, this extraordinary versus the ordinary debate, when they talked about it, what did they say that was different? And
Right.
all of the things that go into this
Right.
equate to the future. Like, this is the future, man.
Right
The
here.
stages that most people have seen in the past are getting changed by podcasts, because this is going into the mainframe, man.
Yep.
AI, it's going
Hmm.
into machine learning. And whenever
Right.
people Google,
Hmm.
this show will come up in the future 10,
Right.
20, 30 years from now.
Right.
But
Right.
starting off my journey in the military, I had to do the did. And I did that so that I can do what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Because without expertise and practice, the study that I did wouldn't mean as much. And
Wow.
that kind of that irks me a lot, because people don't see the overnight success
Yeah. I mean,
journey. They just see the
it's
overnight success.
yeah, precisely, and the work that puts behind that is required behind it. It's always that surface level success that people feel like, oh, he did it so quickly, he got it
Yeah.
done. But really, it's all about what I love, that what you did is now contributing to the future, which is technically what we are doing right now, which is going to go into a knowledge base that people are going to find into the future. I love that. You went through this experience, you transition into civilian life, and you apply this into civilian leadership through your leader's kit, is what you do. That is your endeavor right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask is, what are the most critical leadership skills that translate well from the military into civilian context?
Yeah. Everyone thinks they understand leadership, but
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it is the military is a giant leadership factory. They put you in scenarios that are no fail, that have life or death situations every day. And then if you fail, you that worst case, you lose somebody's life. The
Wow.
best case, you lose lots of money. And
Mm-hmm.
then neither one of those things is good, especially when you're looking at it from the outsider's perspective. And when you're involved and they give you a bunch of things, it's almost like a rental car, um, a rental car that no one owns, and they
Mm-hmm.
give you this rental car to drive for a couple years in the military, and they say, "Here you go. This is your unit. This is what you're responsible for. I need you to get it from here to there." And you're like, "Okay," and then you punch it right, and you try to go fast, and things break, and then you end up calling
Mm-hmm.
a rental car company. Hey, I broke something. I got in an accident,
Right.
and all of these things that people learn when they're beginner drivers getting a rental car,
Yeah.
people learn those very early in the military, and they learn them much
Of
later
course.
whenever the company belongs to them. So
I see.
the
I
difference
see.
between a military leader and a civilian leader is the military leader is going to move faster, going to get more responsibility. They're going to give them the rental car and say, go. And then they're going to
Mm-hmm.
monitor it, give them the support. They're going to give them
Okay.
another car if they need it. But you don't get that in entrepreneur land. You
Yeah.
get your money, you get your loan, you get your responsibility. So you're a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
white knuckles on the wheel trying to drive your car through this crazy thing we call business.
Yep.
And your leadership looks more like management as you get the oil changed, you put the blinker on in the
Yes.
right amount of time,
Yes.
you're watching cars around you.
Yes.
So the translation between the two, it's driving, man.
Mm.
Everyone has a different driving style, right?
Yep. Yep.
Everyone's got a different vehicle. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever you start comparing apples and oranges, you still have, fruit, but it looks different. It feels different. The consistency is different. Everything is different
Mm-hmm.
because it's yours.
Right.
And your experience is always going to be different. But the problem I have, the main problem I have, is whenever someone looks at the rental car logs and they go, well, these cars went to this location and it made it safe. So I'm going to ascertain and say that they did it this way. And then I'm going to tell everybody in the rental car agency,
Mm.
hey, this is how it's done. And
Wow.
they're never going to drive the rental car. They're never going to get behind the car of their own,
Of course.
and then they're going to give everyone advice on how to drive, what the
Oh my
safety
God.
parameters
Of
are.
course.
And that's leadership today.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone understands
Yeah.
leadership, but they only understand their little tricycle that they're on,
Yep.
going, not even a mile an hour, pedaling as fast as they can, saying, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's
society, leadership, and the whole environment
Nope.
today.
Nope, that's not. That's the problem right now. And it's like leadership without the work, right? You mentioned about that earlier, like putting in the work before you could actually start applying those things. But,
Yeah.
but like you said, it is rampant right now. People want or think they're leaders, but
Yeah.
they don't want to do the work. And
Yeah.
there's no type of work I feel like putting in that defines putting in the work better than the military experience that you've come to live, and translating that now to your leadership workshop, so to speak. You
Yeah.
emphasize that leadership has basics, much like a military kit. Like that's why you call it leaders kit, military
Yeah.
kit. Because
Yeah.
there are leadership basics. What would be fundamental leadership that principles that we're missing today, apart from that one that you mentioned that they just suck in their own bubble wanting to lead? What are some fundamentals that we need to learn universally that could be effective across different environments?
The first part of leadership is realizing you don't know anything about leadership.
That's
That's just
it.
honest. You
That's
know,
it.
it,
Hmm.
people fail to recognize that until they fail at leading,
Yeah.
and then they go, "Crap! What did I do? How do I get out
Yeah.
of this hole that I just dug myself in?"
Hmm.
So I have three major principles to leadership, three that I've seen consistently, and doesn't matter where you're at. And I've worked
Please.
in all levels of the military. I've worked in, major companies, Fortune 500 companies, worked with and for them. And
Hmm.
I've worked with billions of dollars. And the three main things that everyone needs to focus on as a leader. And if you focus on more than this, it's going to fail. But if you focus on these three things, you
Okay.
can lead
Okay.
in your own style
Hmm.
within your own bubble, like you said.
Hmm.
And the first one that everyone misses
Right.
is people. They try to lead dollars, they try to
Hmm.
lead time. So they try to expedite themselves,
Hmm.
to an expert status. I see
Hmm.
this all the time, man. Like I got a letter yesterday from a stage that I applied to. It was a big stage. And there's like 500 or 600 people that apply to these stages. And
Hmm.
I got an email that said, "Hey, sorry we didn't go with you, but we started picking speakers." So what I do, look up the
Okay.
speakers,
Right.
and then I look at the speakers, and I'm seeing no substance. I see a book, but it's not a best selling book. Like
Hmm.
number one in 13 categories for a reason. People like what I'm saying, right? People
Hmm.
actually recognize my book now. That
Right.
took a lot of time to get out into the public, but it
Hmm.
also took me 30 years to write all of
Exactly.
my lessons down and say,
Precisely.
these are my failures,
Hmm.
world. Here is what you can learn from my failures.
Right.
People.
People.
So I took people and I put that first and always. And people are not the focus for a lot of leaders today.
Hmm.
And then the focus between leadership and management will come into play there. But the second thing
Hmm.
is time. It's your time, my time. Everyone has the same amount of time. But
Yeah.
what they fail to realize is the way I use time doesn't need to be the way that you use time. And
Okay.
if you're always trying to mimic someone else's time management, it's never going to feel genuine and it's not going to work. And people are going to be like, "What are you doing, manager?" instead of leader. And the
Instead of
last
leading.
thing, the thing that everyone starts with is cost, because everyone's concerned with this thing called money.
Mm, mm,
The reality of money goes like this: there's a lot of money in the world,
mhm, mhm,
and it goes to the people who provide value.
mhm,
So if you're not providing value, you're not going to get money. But if you're
mhm.
providing value and you're doing it in the right amount of time, lots of money is going to flow your way. So focusing on money doesn't help you get money. Focusing on time doesn't help you get time all the
Mm.
time. But
Right.
focusing on people helps you get time and money.
There you
So
go.
if you get a
I
problem,
love that.
if you get any problem, this is what
Mhm.
happens in the world today. You're conditioned to think like this:
Right.
how much is it going to cost for this problem to go away?
Hmm. Hmm.
When can this get fixed?
Yep.
And then, and only then, do you say, who can help me fix this problem? And turning the extraordinary into the ordinary goes like this:
Hmm.
who is the expert?
Right.
And then you find out how much they will charge in time and
Hmm.
money. And you'll find out that every time I've asked this question, it saves me time and money. And then people come to me and they say, "Hey, can we join forces with you? Can my team work with yours?
Wow.
Hey, I have this much money. Can you expedite it into your program so that we can join on this?" Whenever you have success,
Wow.
whenever you build something amazing,
Hmm.
people come to
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
instead of you trying to build something with time
Yeah.
and money
Yeah.
and then looking at, okay, I need more
Wow.
time and money. Find the expert who's already
That's true.
doing it and partner with
True.
them, and your money and time will go a lot farther. So
Wow.
there's your
I
three
love that.
focus areas.
That's
Yeah.
it. I love that. It applies in what? It applies in careers, applies in entrepreneurship, it applies as a business owner,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to leadership, right? I'm doing air
Yeah.
quotes of leadership
Yeah.
because people, I love how you pointed out time. First of all, you pointed out time because immediately in my mind is like, oh man, military time. I don't think I can do military time. Like I said,
Yeah,
I'm not built like Atlas is built the same way. But like you said, you might not apply it the same way I do or do it the same way that you do, but you find that time. But more importantly, is you find that people. I love that. I love that people comes first. You treat people like individuals, like humans, and not as commodity for your
yeah,
cost. For you to lessen your cost or reduce your cost and all that. That is why I think a lot of leaders who think they're leaders, they fail, but they're actually just managing. They're just changing tires. I love that analogy, changing oil, and just like they're not really
yeah.
leading. They're just
They're managing it.
managing a broke down car, rental car, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Even though
Um,
you're behind the wheel of that car, your GPS is probably telling you where to go. That
that's it.
GPS is leading you and which roads you're going to take, how you're going to
Mhm,
get there, and you're
mhm.
trusting something else other than yourself. And we become more reliant on those type of environments
Yeah,
today
and you're
more than
and you
any other time in history.
it's that's a difficult another I love that analogy again because it's a difficult situation when you're being led, right? You're not actually, you're
Yeah,
being driven by something else. You're not actually driving y- your team or whatever your mission is to that. You're being driven by something else. It's out of your control because you can't lead your life. How do you lead
no,
others, right? I love
right.
that. Atlas, your work with Leader Kit, it focuses on improving leadership, creating more
Yeah,
leaders. I'd love for you to share a success story where your methods
yeah,
significantly transformed an individual or an organization's leadership
yeah.
capabilities. I love stories on here. Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to actually to go back and work with another really successful multi-million dollar company here in the Phoenix
Wow.
area. So where a lot of people are looking for money is not where the money is. Cody Sanchez is great at talking about the silver tsunami, which is baby boomers getting ready to get out of their businesses that are successful. And they've had these businesses for decades and they
Mhm,
have a
mhm,
following, they have a customer base,
mhm,
and they just want to go retire, man. So
mhm.
she talks about buying those businesses and then transporting them into the future, conglomerating all these businesses. Where that is today is more important than any other time in history because you have the opportunity to take something somebody else built and move it forward. I'm looking at that specific situation and
Mhm.
finding more opportunities there than ever before by looking at companies that aren't sexy. And she talks about that a lot. So
Oh,
what I'm talking about whenever I'm talking about not company or non sexy companies are like service based companies,
right.
not restaurants, something like that, but specifically the one I'm working with tomorrow is a garage door company, and they work on garage door repairs
Okay.
and garage door services. And
Okay.
to a lot of people, they're like, "That's not sexy." Dude's making a lot of money right now, and he's growing.
Wow.
So a couple years ago, he brought me in and I sat down with all of his employees. And it's what I do is a kit. It is specific to the company. So it's not
Mm,
something where I come in black and white and I'm like, we're going to do this, 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 and this. I assess the company and I go, okay, what do you need? Who's working for you? That's the first question. Who's
that's
working
it.
for you?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
they said, well, these people. I'm like, well, what are they like? What are their passions? And I dug into each one of the employees that he had,
Right.
and today he's got all new employees, man. Because what he
Wow.
did was he
Wow.
took their passions and he fueled them, and then he grew them, and now they work in other places. Not necessarily the garage door
Wow.
industry. They moved into places that they wanted to be, where their calling
Yep.
was, and he
That's it.
developed them. So let me tell you the inside baseball to this. When you
Please.
start caring about who works for you,
Mhm,
just like when I was in all of these elite teams that I got to be a part of, we started focusing on them. And when you
mhm,
focus on them, they come to work happy, ready to go.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
my boss actually cares, my company actually cares. And
mhm,
whenever that mantra is inside you, you show up to work.
mhm,
You don't show
mhm,
up like, who's going to take care of me? I got all this stuff on my back. No one
mhm.
cares but me. What's my next step? You remove that stress layer
Right.
and people start to do way more. So
Right.
his company's grown like 3, 4x in the first year. It's I
Wow.
think 10 times bigger than it was when I went a couple of years ago. And
Wow.
now he's got camera crews that are coming in that shoot commercials for like Super Bowl and
Wow.
Nike, and he's doing these
Come on.
like in-depth interviews with his employees who
Right.
are freaking talented and smart. So tomorrow I'm doing well, professional mutiny, and what that looks like is I have pirate blood in me. I just found out that last year, whenever
Really?
I was looking into my yeah, because I had time now. I'm like, let me figure out where I came from, and my
Okay.
bloodline goes back to piracy in Ireland. So they were pirates and smugglers. They stopped a slave trade. They stopped a part of Baltimore from like exfilling a whole bunch of Irish slaves, and they became kings of the Baltimore harbor. And then, for hundreds of years, they protected that and made sure no one was going to come in and harm them. Now, that name is associated with an Irish whiskey. So I'm like, this is cool. Piracy? Come on.
That's even more
People,
cooler.
yeah. So I started, they have a pirate themed whiskey. It's called
Very cool.
O'Driscoll's Irish Whiskey. And I started looking into piracy, but more specifically, American piracy. And I
Of
realized
course.
these parallels between leadership of criminals. Like pirates, they were next level leaders. Because,
Of
okay,
course.
let me come come to my job that means nothing because
Yep.
sailors didn't get paid anything. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
Hmm.
They were the scum of the earth.
Of course.
Like, come with crimes. We don't care. If
Uh
you
huh.
want to be part of this crew that is going to look after you
Hmm.
under something we call a black flag, which is
Yep.
a flag of freedom.
Yes.
So we fly this. We care about ourselves. We care about our crew. And then you go into an uncertain potential death with a whole bunch of people that now you trust more than family,
Hmm.
and you change your whole life. And a lot of these people, they retired. No one talks about this either. They retired from piracy and became prevalent families in
Hmm.
specific areas of America. And a lot of
Wow.
politics in these areas, Charleston, South Carolina, comes from a pirate background that no one wants to
Right.
talk about.
Right.
So
Wow.
I'm bringing that tomorrow, and I bring in these things that leaders do individually as pirate captains, and then I'm making them assess themselves for their situation, their leadership style, what they care about, and the mutiny that I do, I've done it a couple times now, is I ask questions. I say, "What are the stupid rules that you have to follow?" And who asked that question? Right? Nobody. Nobody asked that question. So
Nobody.
people are like, we don't like this, this, and this. And I'm like, all right. I write it down. I'm like, what can you do to change it? And they're
Right.
like, well, we could probably do this. I'm like, have you talked to anyone?
Right.
And they're like, no. I'm like, well, let me tell you how to
That's
create a mutiny.
that's it.
This is
Go.
how you're going to
That's
do
it.
it. And then I'm like, you're going to ask your leadership for this, your
Right.
leadership, not your management, your leadership,
Hmm.
because the management just wants to follow the rules. The
Right. Of
people
course.
who own the company, the people who are looking for the vision, the people who are actually doing the marketing, they
Hmm.
want to know this. Why
Right.
are you holding it from them?
Mm.
Like, become a pirate, throw that
Mm.
mindset forward, lead your own life, throw your own black flag up,
Right.
and make sure that you're getting your people, your crew, your time, which
Hmm.
is yours,
Right.
and your money all
There you
together
go.
so that you can lead through this life, and you don't have to live an ordinary life. You can
Right.
live an extraordinary life if you just adopt a pirate mindset. So that mutiny is going on tomorrow, and
Fantastic.
I guarantee you they're going to keep growing. He's got more
That's
coaches. He's focused on
awesome.
people.
Yeah.
He's Kyle is his name. Great guy, former Marine,
Wow.
just fantastic. He's going to blow up in the Phoenix area. It's one of the top growing businesses in Arizona
Wow.
today,
Wow. That is
and
very
it's
cool.
one of those things that people are like, "Oh, you're working with a garage door company." I'm like, "I'm working with the garage door company. You need something for your garage?" Because I
Hey.
guarantee you, they can knock you
Uh,
out of the park.
that is so
So,
cool. I
yeah,
love, again, I love the pirate analogy. And one of your descriptions, you say, you are truly in the business of professional mutiny. You go in there, you tell people to, how are you going to put together these leadership, put them in their, put them
yeah,
in their place, basically. You are, of course, the red beard also goes with that piracy mission of yours. And there you go, there you go. Let's go. I mean,
Yeah,
look, Atlas, this has all been very fantastic. And again, you keep going back to how elite leaders win is by being, by focusing on the who, right? Focusing on the
yeah,
people, which is
yeah.
literally the title of your TEDx talk.
It is.
Start with who. Start with who,
Yeah,
how elite leaders win. And I love everything that you've shared here today, Atlas. Before we start really wrapping this up, or to truly start really wrapping this up, we kind of, on a lighter note, we started talking about this in a little bit, earlier. Your name is actually, Atlas is just a call sign. What is your
it is.
true name? And talk to us a little bit about why you chose to go by your call sign.
Yeah. So my real name given at birth is Joshua Michael. Was my first
All
legal
right.
name. Joshua is a biblical name,
Mm-hmm.
leader after Moses, led God's people. So my mom purposely picked that because, well, one, it's very popular and everyone loves Joshua. Everyone
Everyone
loves a
loves
Joshua.
Joshua. Yes,
Yeah, everyone loves it.
absolutely.
It's the most popular name for almost 20 years in
Right.
America. So the reason why is because everyone wanted to raise a leader because we
Mm,
needed leadership
right.
for a long time. So people were looking at that. My mom told me as a kid, Joshua, leader. Michael is another Bible name, and that's Saint Michael is the one that God sent to defeat the devil and the
Mm-hmm.
leader of God's army. So together they form Joshua. Michael is the leader of warriors, and that's what my mom, like we talked
Wow.
about earlier, my mom put that in my life, and that was going to
Wow.
be my destiny, and it was always something that I was around. So whenever I was in the military, it was a Josh or a Joshua, and the call signs would come and go. People would try
Mm-hmm.
to give me call signs, and I'm like, nah, I like what my mama started with. I'm gonna go with that. But in Afghanistan,
Mm-hmm.
after we got the call to evacuate,
Mm-hmm.
um, we were starting to pull everything out that was important after 20 years of war,
Mm-hmm.
and we were starting to do that. COVID was hitting. We had a civil war going on. We
Mm-hmm.
had other terrorist groups that were acting up. I had personal problems that was going on with my marriage at the time. I was going through a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and my kids were like just. It was just a whole host of things that I just put on my back,
Right.
and I went out and did battlefield rotations, and I visited, the SEALs and the Green Berets and the Rangers and all the special elements that I was in charge of making better as a director for special
Right.
operations. And the guys never saw all the struggles that I was going through. They just
Right.
saw me talking to all these people and helping them next level their stuff.
Wow.
So the way a call sign ceremony works is different, just like every leadership story. And
Mm-hmm.
mine went like this. They called me into the office, and I was like, hey, guys, I'll be right back. I got to go talk to the commanding general. So the commanding general said, hey, getting ready to leave. Thanks for what you do. You crushed it. And I was like, you know what, sir? Thanks. But, my team crushed it. I always say that because they do. And
Right.
he's like, I agree. Go tell them. So I was like, they're actually waiting. I'll go back and tell them. So I'm like, hey, guys, Commanding General, I just talked to him. He said that you guys crushed it. And I'm like, that's awesome, Colonel. Come in here. And all of the people that were my leads were sitting in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And call sign ceremonies start with stories. So
Right.
they started talking about how I was different. So when you
Mm-hmm.
came in, you told us what you were good at and what you were not good at. And you
Mm-hmm.
didn't do anything that you're not good at, which is weird. So people,
Wow.
and I was like,
I
yeah,
love it.
I found people to do that. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, okay. Then you started figuring out who we were, and you got us away from things we didn't want to do.
Wow.
And we
Wow.
started doing things a lot faster. And then we
Mm-hmm.
started making the team bigger
Mm-hmm.
because wins make bigger teams.
Right.
And then the organization itself started to gel around things and initiatives that we were doing. And we started just moving the ball really fast. And as things were going all around the whole world, all the things were going on in the war zone with all of those bad things that I told
Uh-huh.
you about,
Uh-huh.
They said you stood still and it felt like you carried everything on your back.
Let's go.
So it's only fitting that we call you Atlas.
Atlas. There you go.
And I said, guys, I've never taken a call sign ever,
Wow.
ever. But this is the first time I actually felt a personal bond. And I know I'm going to get, I was retiring from the Air Force at the time. I said, I know I'm going to get out and transition into the Atlas that will make you proud. And
Wow.
thank you. I'm going to carry it on. So ever since then, people have called me Atlas, and I've adopted the call sign. And it's usually a fighter pilot, like Blaze or Blazer,
Yeah.
Laser. And I used to make fun of those guys, but now
Mhm.
I kind of get it. And that warrior culture, they give you a name if
Right.
you're someone that you would go to war with them, they'll
Yeah.
give you a name. And I
That's
was
it.
at war when I got the name.
That's
And
it.
those warriors that I was charged with leading gave me the
Mm.
name, so I feel pretty privileged to use that name now,
And
and
of
that's
course,
why.
today, Atlas, the leader himself, joins us in this episode. And he joins us today, the civilian word, as a civilian leader, creating more leaders here. Atlas, I'm quite honored. I'm really, really happy with everything you've taught us today, everything that you've shared today. I wish I could have you on for an hour show. Maybe we could do this another time. But Atlas, it's been great. I love the leadership concept that you are putting out there. That perspective is truly something that is unique. It's of course born out of 30 years, 3 decades of military experience, and you carry it proudly the same way that you carry your call sign. Atlas, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
All right, brother. Thanks again, Joshua. I appreciate the show, and you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, to talk to you and we'll catch you deep in touch. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this show just as much as I did. You know, connect with Atlas. But oh wait, I can't let you go without any plugs. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? Where's your website?
Yeah. Recently, I just started atlasaltman.com because
All right,
other
okay.
people who don't know what they're talking about have those sites. But leaders-kit.com is my website.
User
Just
stash
connect with me
kit.
on LinkedIn.
Let's do
LinkedIn,
it.
Atlas_Aultman, Aultman. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it, Atlas. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, go connect with Atlas. Check out atlasaltman.com, leaders-kit.com. Atlas, it's been great. Thank you so much for the show. To all our audience and listeners out there, see you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.